All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the first official podcast of Agape Rescues Children. My name is Serena St. Germain. I am also known as the Happy Healer, Divine Sophia 777 and 65 on TikTok. Those accounts have since been removed, but that's okay. That's where people know me from. And I am here today. I am so excited, everybody. On the right-hand side is Cathy O'Brien, and she is one of the original survivors of MK Ultra programming that has told her story, has fully healed, returned all of her memories back. She's thriving and doing so amazing, and her story is important, and I really want the world to understand how important these survivor stories are, because it tells us that these things are true. And in this moment of the truths coming out and all of the unveiling of and the breakdown of the matrix, and the public being very aware of how nefarious our government systems can be, we need to start listening to these ladies' stories, because there's too many similarities between all of them that I've been studying for a very long time. There's too many similarities for it not to be true, right? And if you read the documents, we'll do when we post the video, we're going to put Cathy's information down. She's got Transformation of America, and I understand that you've written a couple of other books that we're going to advertise and get you going on that as well. And we also have Staci on the left from Agape Rescues Children. So we're very excited to talk about healing, support, prevention, education, because that's what it's all about. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 or if you're 100, the healing needs to happen. The healing, in order for us to be in our authentic space and enjoy this thing called life, we really need to do that deep healing. And so we want everybody to know that that healing is available. We've got Amelia Wright is the healing services behind Agape Rescues Children. We've got people waiting to answer the helpline, answer the email, and to get everybody in the direction of healing. And what was your slogan, Staci? Can you say that again?
The slogan, well, the podcast name, what we want to call this podcast, is Oniya Talks. Oniya is our, the Agape First Healing Center. So Oniya, and healing future generations one breath at a time, creating a better future generation one breath at a time, empowering future generation or something like that.
So Oniya means breath?
Oniya means breath. That's in beautiful. Lakota language. Oh, wow. Yeah, Oniya is built on 36 acres of Lakota land, and Oniya is breath is very important for Native American. And we just, so it's called Oniya Talks, and our new center is Oniya.
Wonderful, really, and congratulations. I am too, and I can't wait until we can do some video there and show the public what we're doing and the locations that we're setting up in order to receive and to help heal. Right?
Yes,
that's what this is all about. And absolutely. I love the way that it's the breath, because we all know that we take our first breath and our last breath. It's what you do in between those two breaths that is really important, right? We can't help what's done to us by other people. How we manage it is we just manage ourselves. We heal ourselves. We understand that not everybody has good intentions. There is far more evil in this world than anybody wants to admit, and it is now being exposed. And how we get through it and survive is we just breathe. We just breathe, and we feel, and we go through it, and then we get on the other side and we live, right? Because healing is a destination, everybody. Healing is not a lifelong journey. When we face our demons and we face, and that's called shadow work, when we deal with our own internal stuff, the harm we have caused to others in our pain and suffering, and then we get past what other people have done to us, when we realize that it's not our fault, right? We always, what did I do wrong? Why me? Well, we're not being punished. It's not about anybody, like, we're not being punished, right? It's stuff that other people do because they are not connected to themselves. They are not connected to their heart space. They are not connected to a creator on any level. And you folks will understand what I'm talking about as we get into this interview and Cathy's story, that evil exists. There's no doubt about it. And these people that are involved in these programs, I honestly believe that many of them, they're traumatized out of caring, because it becomes robotic. It becomes a hypnotic state. It becomes programming, right? And anybody that's known me for 5 minutes know I'm all about deprogramming, because we've got to get through the lies. We've got to understand that 85% of the population can be hypnotized without their consent or knowledge. And it is happening to us every single day through the media, your devices, the news, music, all of it. And it is all true. And I know, people have accused me of being a little bit wackadoodle, but it's true. We know it's true. We know that we are being programmed all the time. And when people say, well, how do you know that? Well, how do 8 billion people stay calm when there's only a couple thousand government representatives worldwide and there's 8 billion of us out here suffering? They keep us compliant. It's in order, it's in order to keep us compliant. Now, to Cathy's story. Now, Cathy's story is amazing, and it also involves her daughter, which is very often the case in these types of situations where it's a generational thing. Okay. So what happened to Cathy is that her father was abused. He became an abuser. And then she was involved in the program and trafficked, and I'm going to let her tell her story. And then her daughter was also literally from birth, was also brought into the program. And both ladies have now grown up and healed and are on their way to just living their best life and sharing their stories and sharing love and healing for those that are looking to live a better life and be in an authentic space. So, Cathy, please tell everybody your story briefly, or however long you want to make it is fine. But I came across your story, I believe about 15 years ago, and it has been my catalyst to keep doing this, to keep getting shut down on social media and keep going back at it, because your story is important. Your story is so important. And I just want everybody to know what you went through.
So I am a survivor of CIA MK Ultra mind control, and I was used on a White House Pentagon level. So I was deep in the swamp among perpetrators who steal elections, who use drug and human trafficking across open borders to fund their globalist agenda, and who use mind control to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, and Joe Biden term the New World Order.
Yes.
So when we understand that this political agenda is a mind control agenda, it starts to make sense what in the world is going on. Mind control is a sliding scale from the kind of torturous, systematic, robotic MK Ultra mind control I experienced to information control.
Yes.
Because we all formulate our thoughts, our opinions, and our actions based on what we know. And we need to know that knowledge base has been altered and manipulated for a long, long time. We have been conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult to cult religion to tell us how to live our lives. When in fact, we have all the power. It's been within us all along. We just forgot. So everyone is affected on some level. That's why we're compliant. We have been conditioned to be compliant because this New World Order agenda is a slave society agenda. They need us compliant. They need our numbers reduced to a manageable size. That's what this population control is all about. So having been around these perpetrators, I saw what their plan is, and I see how rapidly it's spinning out of their control because people are waking up. There is a great awakening happening. There are survivors emerging everywhere right now. And we're all starting to see the reality of the horror we didn't want to know, that little children are being sexualized and trafficked. They're used in blackmail operations, and mind control, again, is key. So that's what keeps me speaking out, is bringing this truth to light, because knowledge is our defense against any level of mind control.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's robotic or whether it's indoctrination in the school system, whether it's being manipulated in a cult religion, if it's being manipulated by the occult, or if people are just dumbed down because their focus is in a little text message and they keep their head in a contraption rather than remembering to breathe, to get out in nature, feel the air, feel the wind, feel the sun on their skin, feel the earth beneath their feet, and talk to each other, eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul. And that's the movement that's happening right now on a global scale. And I'm so excited to finally be seeing it, because I waited a lifetime for people to wake up to see what's going on. What people are seeing these days isn't new. What's new is that they're seeing it. And that's our first step towards positive, necessary change.
Absolutely. Very well said. And with this new world order, as humans, we don't know how to play the long game, right? Because we're so impatient, and our world right now is instantaneous. So we are seeing so much disconnection. Everybody's in their phones, they got their faces, they're just swiping, looking to be entertained or something to, and it's the same technology as slot machines. And Staci, you're very well aware of that. You live in Las Vegas, so you're aware of how entrapping that can be.
Yeah.
I was a 25-year compulsive gambler, so that's why Vegas is not a place that I can go, and I know I can't. And I find it very interesting that Gamblers Anonymous holds their yearly thing in Vegas, which I thought was very interesting. But for me, I understand the psychology behind it, and we have to understand that every time that we are not present, that we are just zoned out, we are being hypnotized, we are being programmed. There's such subliminal programming going on, and we even saw that with that gigantic globe that you guys have in Vegas, where somebody had done all those really fast words. Well, there's some people on TikTok that have slowed that down, and so that we can each read each word, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying, the message they put out, right? But you're right, Cathy. In this moment, everything is being revealed, everything, and that's why the distraction has become heightened, because again, as human beings, we are too easily distracted because we're too much into our emotional centers. We don't know how to get out of our own emotional state so that we can be fully present right now, right? Living in the past, living in pain, living in suffering. Why is my life like this? Why do my parents not care about me? How come I was abused? How come my life is the way it is? What did I do wrong? Right? Lots of people sit in that. And I found it very interesting. I know with a lot of my clients, I have gotten too many. One is too many. But I have gotten so many women that have come forward to talk to me and get healing where they have been ritualistically abused through their church. It's right. I'm finding that there is a big correspondence between the Mormon and the Pentecostal churches, where now that is all being exposed. And I wanted to ask you, ladies, because I'm Canadian, I'm familiar with the geography and all that kind of stuff of the States. But don't you ladies find it very interesting what happened here with Hurricane Helene? Because it was not a natural event. And what I'm curious about is I know that a lot of those locations that were hit have also been mentioned in survivor stories, that those are places that the programming happened or the secrecy happened or these things. Like, my conspiracy theory brain can't help but connect those two dots, right? Because we even said, Staci, you and I have been on this thing for like a year now with Save the Children. Well, where are they? If all of these children are being rescued and there's thousands of them, where are they? Because we're ready to go. And you see a lot of rescue societies that have come up for children in the last 2 years. Where are the children? Where, like, I can't help but think that since Trump was elected in 2016, when he said he was going to drain the swamp back then, and this is not a political conversation at all. I don't care who likes who. I'm Canadian. I don't care. I just watch it on a global stage and find it very fascinating how the American public is manipulated, right, in their thoughts. That happens online, through the Google, through your DuckDuckGo, through all of the programming that happens on a daily basis. So I find it interesting that I do believe that somebody was doing some good work. Somebody's been doing some good work. But I think we all need to see it. We want to see some results, right? So are you
And
ladies?
it begins with us. It's up to us. You can't expect one person to drain a swamp from the top down. It's up to all of us to drain it from the bottom up. It's up to all of us to take responsibility for our own lives and take back our own power. Once we do that, once we start living our life's purpose, because we're all here for a reason, this pivotal moment in humanity's history, when we do that, our eyes are open and we start seeing where those children are and where we can start making a difference, and realize that these children aren't in just some underground base. It's happening right in plain sight. It's hiding in plain sight because good people don't think to look for that kind of criminal activity. Once we start realizing that the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, or the world, and that trauma is the basis of it, we start understanding more of what's keeping us from opening our eyes and seeing what's happening. This trauma is keeping people's conscious mind frozen in fright and leaves the subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. As
Yes.
soon as they start looking and seeing where those children are, it's like, look over here.
Yeah.
Here's the latest perversion, diversion. Here's the latest
Yeah.
this. Here's your latest, and so we get diverted so easily when we don't have a conscious mind filter. We need to stay consciously present. If we don't have our conscious mind filter, we just take information in with no critical analysis, no question, and it is easy to be driven into the subconscious mind through the controlled media using a repetitive narrative. That's why all channels, all the internet, everything else, it's the same narrative over and over again. It's when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population. It was mask up, get the injection, while the ticker tapes run and showing these numbers of people that are dying. That was all just manufactured to keep people in a state of panic and heightened suggestibility while they're being told to mask up, get the injection, social distance, shelter at home. And then we're told through this controlled media while we're watching our livelihoods burn to the ground. It's peaceful demonstration. But if we defend ourselves, we're the ones who are violent. No, we were conditioned with always being manipulated, and understanding the formula for mind control is important. That formula came into the US and with Project Paperclip in the wake of World War II. When we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US, with them came the formula for mind control. And it had been found through the Hitler-Himmler research that there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. That horrific abuse is right up there with satanic abuse. That's why so many churches are involved. The Catholic Church heavily involved in allowing for the pedophile agenda to go on, and using the Satanism as a trauma base. So they got a combination of the two happening right there within the church. So when we realize that our most sacred aspects of life, from our churches to our schools, to our communities, to our justice systems and everything else, has all been deliberately infiltrated by using this formula for mind control to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, the sexualization of children, that they're being indoctrinated within the school system. This transgender movement has taken it one step further into the depopulation agenda to reduce our numbers to a more manageable size. Because once we have that physical alteration, we can no longer have human procreation. The whole family dynamic is completely disrupted here, and it's being done through mind control. So when we know that formula, that is a truth that makes us free.
Well, and not only, and you're absolutely correct. And people have to understand that, again, we as human beings, we are too we're too used to being the instant gratification, not understanding that these guys, the powers that do all of this, they know how to play the long game. This started in the 80s when political correctness came into play. Because look at it now, 40 years later, you're not allowed to hurt a feeling. Nobody's allowed to be authentic. Nobody's allowed to speak their truth. And look what happens when you do. People are instantly either attacked by bots or other rude people online. And it's so hard to just have a conversation about these things. Like, we need to be able to have the space to talk about it, because it's awful stuff, but it's happening and it's real, and they're doing it to us every day, right?
It's hard. It's harder to have that conversation when so many generations have been affected, because also in that Hitler-Himmler research that came in the wake of World War II was the study into how after 3 generations, any knowledge base, abuse base, or belief system becomes autogenic in the brain. It's passed down autogenic. We're born with this, becomes birth knowledge. So when we're conditioned for so many generations, people are starting to be born more compliant. It's why parents aren't standing up stronger for their children being indoctrinated in the school system, because they were indoctrinated in the school system to allow for it to happen too. That school system, I worked under the education secretaries during the 1980s when global education, which now is called Common Core, was put into the school systems on a global scale, and that Methodism was taken from the Hitler's youth, how they were conditioned in the schools, and then they took it to the next level so that the children are taught what to think rather than how to think. And we can get that information back in with some few simple steps to teach our children to think again. But we need to realize that we ourselves had been conditioned on what to think rather than how to think. So people have to it's up to each and every one of us to start reclaiming our freedom, understanding what's been done with our brain, expand our thought beyond what we think we know, and realize that soul is stronger than genetics. So even if we are born with that genetic knowledge, our birthright, purpose, our soul expression, our infinite strength of the human spirit and power of love overcomes all that real fast once we know the truth that makes us free.
Yep. And once we allow ourselves the information, because a lot of people go into cognitive dissonance, they don't want to believe that the things are happening, but we've got to keep our open minds. Like, that's why it's called the Great Awakening right now, because the veil is very thin and people are now seeing what they refused to see before or were programmed not to see. Right. So this programming is very, very, very important. And that actually brings me, Cathy, at what point, like when Mark came into your life and literally rescued you out of the program, and you guys went on your adventure to Alaska and went through all of that hardship and suffering, and oh my goodness, and he was bringing you back, right? Bringing you back to you. In the course of your programming, how many personalities did you end up with? Were they ever counted?
No, and it's not really personalities. It's more compartmentalization of memory of one personality that's shattered into this lack of ability to have intercommunication in the brain. It shuts neuron pathways down in the brain. It takes trauma. It's called the mind saying defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend. Like my father's sexual abuse began in infancy before I could think to know what he was doing was wrong. But my brain knew. So it shut down the neuron pathways around the pain and suffocation of his abuse, buried it deep in the subconscious. And then when my father would come in to sexually abuse me again, it would trigger back open. Those neuron pathways would open. And the part of me that dealt with his abuse would deal with him again and again and again as needed. Then when my father's sexual abuse went into child pornography of me, I had another compartment in the brain developed, and that neuron pathway shut down and repressed that memory unless it was happening again. That camera came out and those neuron pathways opened and triggered that part back open. Then he was prostituting me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge, where all the local politicians and law enforcement and everything had the information on mind control. That's what secret societies are keeping from us. That's the secret, is how to manipulate all of us using this formula for mind control. Again, knowledge is our defense against it. But nevertheless, my father began prostituting me there. So then I had compartmentalization of that repressed in my brain. Now, with the shutting down of neuron pathways, this part doesn't know it. This part does, this part doesn't. Now, there's no intercommunication in between. There's no ability to know what just happened. And there's also no ability to dread that it's going to happen again or fear that it's going to happen again. There's no forward thought on it. There's no memory of what happened. There's no ability for any thought process. So conscious thought is lost dramatically as more and more traumas are added. Then, of course, occult and everything else. And as my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails, the local politician that I had been prostituted to as a little toddler told my father he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would agree to sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control. So this was like back in 1960. And already we can see how our courts have been manipulated to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia. And under the National Security Act, or under whatever blackmail ops or secrecy or how they compromise the politicians, whatever it is,
Yeah.
how they compromise the judges, then this politician went on to become the unelected president of the United States. That's
Wow.
how my victimization ended up going into a White House Pentagon level, because as his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra mind control. So this is giving a basis of understanding how healing comes about after the mind has been shattered, after the personality has been shattered into all this compartmentalized memory where there's no intercommunication in between, no concept of time, no concept of awareness, no capacity for free thought at all. At that point, I could only do exactly what I was programmed to do. And I was programmed on various military, DARPA and NASA installations throughout the US to carry out the bidding of these high-level perpetrators who were laying the foundation of ushering in their new world order. Their blackmail operations, like we hear about Epstein Island, and now we're hearing about the Diddy parties and stuff. This has been going on my whole life. The Epstein Island of its time was Mackinac Island, Michigan. It's where the governor's mansion was located, where I was exposed to Pierre Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, who was
He's so gross. Oh.
MK Ultra of individuals, nations in the world is what he was. But they met there. And those perpetrators don't trust each other either. So they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. And I was used in those blackmail ops all the way back then. So this videos that are around, these recordings, that are probably on thumb drives now, were, the big, huge reels of film back then, and that were hidden and filmed covertly. And then it was the VHS tapes and and it goes, so it goes. But they have maintained these records for a long, long time. When the truth comes out about Epstein Island and about the Diddy parties and who was there, we need to know not who flew the plane to Epstein Island. We need to know who they have the blackmail tapes on and how they're using them, and how that is quite a testament to the reality. There's more good people in this world. Many have just been compromised, blackmailed, sold out, mind controlled, manipulated on so many levels, while the small handful of dark perpetrators at the top, these puppet masters, these self-appointed, self-anointed leaders that we didn't elect, they're a small handful that we begin to see how absolutely inexcusable that it is that we allow them to manipulate our brilliant minds and lives anymore. It's within every one of us to heal. We've been blessed with that capacity. And that is what Mark Phillips knew. Mark Phillips knew how to help me remember who I am and why I'm here through what we're all blessed with all along. Mark did not deprogram me. He just reminded me that it's within us all to heal.
Right. That's and it is. And you brought up some very good points. And that's a big reason why so many people will they refuse to believe that their beloved president or their beloved entertainer. Like when I heard about Neil Diamond, that messed me up for days. When I heard about Neil Diamond through a different story. And a lot of us Gen Xers and boomers, like these very important people that are all within that program. It's so nefarious and it's so deep that people refuse to believe that government officials like Pierre Trudeau are that disgusting and vile, right? When I read your story about Pierre Trudeau, because I'm Canadian, it gave me a little bit more compassion for Justin Trudeau, who is our current leader, useless leader, and running our country into the ground really quick. But we also have to understand that Justin was also a part of that programming, right? He was probably abused as a child as well. He's gone through, who knows, and there's, of course, the death of his brother, which was an accident, a skiing accident or whatever. But when we talk about the actual how it works and the sacrifices that are made, literal sacrifices for these people to stay in power, to stay rich and famous and all of these kinds of things, like people just can't wrap their heads around it, but we've got to start having an open mind and believing it regardless of the names, right? The names, yes, they're important, but it's the survivors that we have to worry about. It's the people that come out the other side that now have a safe place to come, right? They can come to you, Cathy. They can come to you, Staci. They can come to me. There's all sorts of places that if people are even having a hard time processing the information, even if they're not a survivor and they have had no experience with that, even if they're processing the information and trying to be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't, it's too horrible. Yes, it is. But we collectively can also help people process the information as well and heal through that, because it's not just about healing the survivors. It's about being there to support those that are now just finding this information out and having a really hard time. Because once you start going down the roads of these stories, your heart hurts, your soul hurts. My soul cried and cried and cried. And I mean, I think that there's a dimensional reality of me that will continue crying for eons for the pain and suffering of you guys that have been through these programs, right? And then we have your everyday citizens. Nobody wants to believe that the man that they have in their church pulpit every Sunday, is abusing the kids before he sends them off to Sunday school. And then you're sitting there listening to him preach about God. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't help it, right? That's my way of swearing without swearing. It's like, come on. But people are having a hard time wrapping their heads around it. And I think that's another reason why they have been able to perpetrate this for so long, is not only the blackmail, the coercion, the social media programming, the subliminal programming, but when we understand that it's top officials in law enforcement, in like your local police, sheriff's departments, all the way up to the highest levels of government. And there's many of them. There's so many of them. In all of the research that I've done, the only one that I could not find anything on was Jimmy Carter. He seemed to be the only one that was a little bit not as bad as everybody else for some reason. And I don't know if that's a true story or not. Cathy, and I'm sorry, I know that was a different survivor story, which we're not going to talk about. But did you have experience with Jimmy Carter as well, or no?
No, I did not. And that's the whole political aspect of it is something that when we understand mind control and we start factoring into the equation, then we understand a whole lot more of what in the world is going on, with the Justin Trudeau's and the fact that his mother, Maggie Trudeau, was an MK Ultra mind control sex slave on a presidential level, like the same that like I was, and was prostituted to various leaders. There's the question of whether or not he's Castro's or Pierre's, but the thing is, Pierre Trudeau is the one who raised him and was very much a part of the pedophile agenda of MK Ultra on every level, whatever the background is on it. But we start factoring that in and realize that many of the government leaders are just marching to new world orders too, because it's been going on unchecked for so long. And it's another reason why it's so important for us all to start governing ourselves.
We the people.
Take back our
this
power.
Is what Cathy and I have been talking about so much the past couple of days, and how important it's we the people. And we start on a community level, and we start getting the right people in office. This is how we make a change, is getting out and sharing stories and letting people understand what's happening. And then we go to the county commissioner's office, or we go to the education board, and we start making a change on a local level, grassroots level. And that's where Agape started. I was telling Cathy a couple of days ago, when I first came up with the idea for Agape Rescues Children, I went out and I blasted it. 6 years ago, I started talking about children and trafficking and tunnels and all this stuff, and people were not ready to see it. And I was a wackadoodle. And you know what? Within those 6 years, I formed my 501, and I listened to Donald Trump, and he said, we've got to start on the grassroots level. And that's when I created the educational manual to take into schools. To get into our local schools. I started taking it to local nail salons. I mean, I started taking it to churches. Anywhere people had an open ear to listen, that's what I've been doing. Slowly watching people wipe the sleep out of their eyes and say, wow, Oh, wow. Now I want to hear Cathy O'Brien's story. Wow, she's amazing. And then the healing begins. And that's where agape comes in and these incredible lands that we're on. And we empower people through we the people. We
Yes.
the people
Yep.
start on grassroots levels and get our local people and mayors to do the right things.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's
And
going to
the
come down
corruption
to
has to be
kids and
exposed.
education, and we want to change the future. We want to empower the future one breath at a time.
Absolutely. And
So
for those
that's
that
where
are
we are.
no, absolutely, I agree. And if for those that are interested, you can go to agaperescueschildren.org. Everything will be in the description for whatever platforms we put this on. And you can either donate $11 for, I think it's $11 US that you had it at. But anyways, you can either donate money directly through the website to help support our efforts. And please download the prevention manual, the Agape Rescues Children Prevention and Education Manual. Print it off, leave it everywhere, leave it in where your kids practice cheerleading, leave it where they're in your doctor's offices, your dentist offices, your wherever, because people will pick it up. And if we can help save one life, just one, because they saw that book.
Yeah, I
just
know.
one at a time,
and I get DMs through TikTok or whatever that it's making a difference. People are aware when they go to gas stations. Moms are pushing strollers in parks and their heads are on swivels now.
Yeah. Good. Well, and we're seeing the collapse of all of these trafficking rings. Like it's happening. Like we're seeing massive busts and the advent of the internet really changed the game, because there's so much that can happen under the cloak of the internet, right? So that's another, I mean, people really need to understand how many levels there are to this. So if we look at it as one overall thing, it's too big, you guys. It's like
huge.
We're not going to dismantle that. It takes one person at a time. Like you ladies were saying, on a community level, a safe place to tell your story, a safe place to start the healing process. And then we listen to other stories, and that's how we do it. I tell two friends, you tell two friends, and so on, right? Like the commercial back in the day for the shampoo or whatever it was.
Shampoo.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how we do this. And for people that think that, our world is ending, it is not. We are going through a lot of changes. We still have children that are being born today that need to be raised to be aware that they need to be mindful, and that these things are a thing, that the manipulation is very, very, very real. And I'm always concerned when I see how many children are being brought up by YouTube or their devices or their phones, and the parents are like, because we've got so much disconnection happening right now, right? So and I think that was systematic as well. It started, again, in the 80s when political correctness came in. You weren't allowed to hurt a feeling. And then COVID solidified it by making everybody distance for 6 feet and wear masks, right? They took us out of our emotional centers. That's how they control us, is they manipulate us through our emotions. If we teach our children that your emotions are sacred, that they are a tool and a guide, not somewhere to live, and that fear should never be a part of that repertoire. Fear is a response so that you understand that you might be in danger or there's something going on. But fear should not be a manipulation tool, and definitely isn't an emotion that we should be living in all the time. And really, that's what this is about, is providing healing in a safe space for those that are in fear. Because anybody that's being abused, I don't care if it's sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and emotional neglect is abuse. I did not know that. I was emotionally neglected. I never considered myself abused, but turns out that's exactly what it is. It's abuse. So breaking the stigma of abuse, it's okay to talk about it. And the problem that we're having is nobody's talking about it for generations now. We even had what we call the silent generation, the generation before the boomers, right? Don't talk about it. That whole, don't bring it out of the house. You don't want to embarrass Uncle Joe or whoever. No, Uncle Joe needs to be called out. Uncle Joe needs to be responsible for the damage that he's causing within this family. And the fact that other people knew about Uncle Joe the whole time. We're just going to say Uncle Joe. I don't know who Uncle Joe is, but that he's been allowed to perpetuate and do this for generations because nobody's talking about it. Joe learned from somebody. That pain hurt people, right? So that's where the compassion comes in. And this is also a message for those that are causing harm. If you're ready to break out of that and ready to heal so that you are no longer hurting and causing suffering, we're here for you too. We don't turn anybody away. Okay? We don't turn anybody. right?
It all begins with a safe place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That safety is key.
And that's what these beautiful lands are, where these beautiful lands, Oniya and Cathy's beautiful place, and these places that are safe to just sit and be. You just sit and be, and you're reminded to come back to yourself. And
When Mark first rescued me, I didn't know good people even existed in the world. So
I bet.
that I had no ability to trust. I didn't know anything. But just like how my brain knew my father's abuse was wrong when I was an infant and compartmentalized it, my brain knew I was safe for the first time. My daughter wasn't being abused. Mark had rescued our animals. And my brain knew. So it started opening the neuron pathways. They began leaking. Memory began flashing. Plus, I was turning 30, where electrochemical changes happen in the brain, where repressed memory often surfaces at a time like that. So I was getting all these memory flashes because I was safe, but without even understanding that, consciously understanding it at the time. I saw that Mark's animals trusted him. The pets that he rescued off the farm when he rescued Kelly and me, that our cows and horses and guineas and chickens and and his fox and his raccoons, and Mark, every place he went, animals loved him and were around him. In my life's experience, people who abuse children abuse animals and vice versa. And when I didn't have a capacity for conscious thought, for any free thought of my own, I developed heightened senses. It's like being blasted into primitive parts of the brain where intuitions and energetic senses are stronger, and where telepathy is. So I could understand much the way an animal could, and I sensed what they sensed. And that was my first step towards being able to start healing. But it began with safety, these safe environments. Like we're talking about with Agape Rescues Children, is just as crucial. It's the first step towards healing for everyone, is just feeling safe and being in a safe place. Because from that point, our healing kicks in, because this is what we've been born with and blessed with all along. We have this capacity within us. We have the most resilient body, mind, and spirit. And that's what Mark was able to remind me. So as these memory flashes came up, he told me, he said, he had been working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences. He was a spook. He was CIA, FBI, NSA, Secret Service. He was he saw children being taken in and out of the White House. And he was so outraged at what was being done, how this global cabal was using mind control to destroy personal and national sovereignties on a global scale, that he wanted to do something about it. He couldn't talk about it. He was bound by laws of sedition. So he took action, lifted my daughter and I right out of the Washington, D.C. swamp, all the way back in 1988, brought me to that safe place. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to heal. And he told me, he said, as you, whatever you're seeing on your mind screen, because it was so horrible, he said, pick up a pen and write it out. The very act of moving a pen activates the logic, critical analysis part of the brain. It's a conscious awareness part of the brain, especially when it's written out on paper in front of you where you consciously see it. So just the very act of doing that started opening neuron pathways. It was taking me emotionally incomprehensible, shifting it over to logic where it was written out on paper. And I started healing psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, everything all at once, just with this one simple brain hack, this one simple trick that we all can use. It's so important. Everyone, if they pick up a pen and paper and write out their trauma, write out their grief, write out their fear, write out what's immobilizing them, write out their guilt, put it on paper, and then add a solution. And I spell solution with an SOUL, because if you add a solution, then you're forcing your brain to fire in new ways. Again, it's like rising above the storm, so to speak. It lifts you from that dark pit of negativity. So you get a clear view forward. So you can see where we can go from here. Everyone needs to do that. And that one simple trick, if we put it back in the school system, will stop the indoctrination of our children. They will learn how to think again rather than be indoctrinated in what to think.
Writing time, journaling time. Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's part of the programming that's happening and the dehumanization that we're going through, the disconnect, because look at how many people can't handwrite. They're not even teaching it anymore, right? So if it's such a critical part of our existence as human beings that it fires up the brain and they're teaching kids not to do that, like look at texting. Texting has created its own new language.
Keyboards don't do the same thing in the brain. They don't open neuron pathways. They shut them down even more. So typing is the opposite. We need to be writing by hand. Everybody, everywhere.
Yeah, we need to get school. We need to get that back into
the crayons back in the little kids' hands. Let them be creative. Let them draw out their trauma. They'll draw it out. And that will help them to heal and consciously know. It'll open those neuron pathways back up in the brain. It gives us our ability to think free again. Once we have that ability to think free, we have an ability to have our soul expression again. Because without free thought, there's no free will. With no free will, there is no soul expression. If we don't have soul expression, we lose our compassion. We lose our ability to attune to our life's purpose, to gather our infinite strength of the human spirit and that infinite power of love. And love is so much more than an emotion. It is the most powerful energy force in the universe. It is what we are comprised of. It's who we really are. It's who we are inside. And we need to remember that. And it begins with free thought. Pick up that pen and paper, activate all of that, open it back up. And instead of just focusing on what has been, focusing on problems, get out in nature. Again, feel that breeze, feel that air. Listen to the nature intercommunicating. It will teach us how to unite again. Nature unites, they all interact, they work together. We need to do that too. And it begins with our soul expression, because once we take that back, we have compassion again. We reach out to each other again. And it's where we all unite. All this divisiveness, this negativity, this trauma, all of it is not going to separate us anymore. But that's how we rise above it all. It's like our light, we start shining our light and it overcomes this imposed darkness. And as we shine that light and the darkness is exposed, the dark secrets are exposed. And all of a sudden there's no secrecy anymore. And we have truth. We have the truth that makes us free. We have the truth that unites us all in a common bond of peace and life's purpose and why we're really here. People everywhere are starting to do that, remembering who they are and why they're here. And that's what the Great Awakening is all about.
And we are going to start it with a crayon in these kids' hands. You know, truly believe. I was just put on a board. Agape Rescues Children was just put on a board called the Serious Type in Colorado. And we are working on childhood education. It's all about childhood education. So we have an event coming up and we are putting crayons back in kids' hands.
Good.
Teaching them about nature and rewilding with bison and Oniya, breath. And how important all of this is. And it starts on a grassroots level. In these little schools, getting crayons back in kids' hands. Period.
Well, and allowing a place for the parents to heal as well so that they can properly introduce the children into a healthy lifestyle, right? Where we're doing the journaling and we're expressing ourselves appropriately and we're not holding anything in. We're not holding other people's shame, because shame is usually from something somebody else did to you, right? And Cathy, you mentioned something very important here that I would like to get your advice on. You mentioned guilt, like when you're writing down the guilt, right? Because I know in my practice and people that I've treated and counseled, that one of the major things is when they get to the guilt. that is what stops them from getting healing, because they're too ashamed that they didn't know, or they did know and they didn't see the signs. Maybe they didn't know, like, that the abuse was happening right underneath their own nose. And in the MK Ultra programming, that literally, like, it's wiped from your memories. Like, your mother didn't have, the parents that are involved, they are even being controlled on that level, so that nobody's remembering anything. Y'all just thought you had a day at home, and that's not what happened, right? There was horrific things, and sometimes over a period of time. Now, that is in the MK Ultra, but when we have it down to a residential level, like your community level, and it's happening within the home or within the church or the organization, etc., what would you tell people to get past the guilt so that they can reach out and then start the healing process?
Yeah, even mind control masked as a virus. People are having a hard time dealing with the reality that they masked up their children, which causes depersonalization, muffles their voices, especially from 6 feet away, and inhibits oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis free thought. They've realized they did that. I mean, not to mention the injections and the guilt that people are having with having followed that. So while I was writing out my memory, the things I'd been forced to participate in, the fact that I hadn't been able to protect my daughter any more than I could protect myself, was absolutely devastating. And I told Mark, I said, I don't think I can live with myself after what I've done and with what I know. And he said, you are not responsible for what you were forced to do under mind control.
That's right.
Your abusers are responsible for that, and they need to be held accountable for their actions.
Absolutely.
We need to see some justice. We need to see these abusers held accountable for those actions. But the greatest thing he told me is that now that you are aware, you are responsible for all of your actions going forward. And it was like, wow, clean slate. I am going to make sure that everything, every breath I take, everything I do is with love, that it's with in harmony with my life's purpose, that it's absolute true to soul, that I'm not going to be manipulated by any outside force. I am going to follow the life I'm intended to live. So I encourage everyone, again, pick up that pen and paper and write out the grief, write out the guilt, write out the trauma, and realize that we're not responsible for what we're forced to do under mind control. We're not responsible for what happened to us. What happened to us is not who we are. We are responsible for who we are. We are responsible for living our life the way it was intended to be lived. And we take that responsibility going forward. That is what is so exciting to me. Responsibility is an ability to respond. It's our choice. It's our free will. It's our ability to make that, instead of being manipulated and told what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to act. We get to just be. And at that point, I learned to live the love that I am, because I couldn't think to love myself after what I'd been through, even with free of the guilt. It was like, how am I going to love myself? Daily affirmations just weren't getting it, because that's from the outside. So I went within, and I went to the base core energy of my being to find who I really am. And I found that energy is love. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to live the love that I am. So living love is so much easier than trying to love myself. And it freed me even more, because ultimately that's what we all need to do. Stop looking outside ourselves for someone to tell us how to live our lives. Look within. Find our source. Find our soul connection. Find the divine. Align with the divine and keep that, maintain it, and live that love forever.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is I found in all of the stories that I've read, all the research that I've done, and my own clients, I am always amazed that no matter how horrific the experience has been, how long it happened, like sometimes it's multiple years that happened, generationally, that kind of thing. I'm always so shocked that there is such a huge connection to Creator, that you would think that folks like you that went through this incredible trauma and abuse would be like, oh God, there's no God, and I hate that, why would he do this to me, and all that kind of stuff. But I find that the opposite happens. is that there is such an incredible connection to the oneness within all of us, and to the fact that we are love and we are lovable and we are allowed to exist and love no matter what we've been through, right? So for anybody listening to this in the future, please don't suffer, okay? There's no need to suffer. We are here. There's no judgment. We understand how horrifying some of these experiences can be. We don't want anybody to feel guilt. We don't want anybody to feel that they are beneath or less than. We are all one. We are all part of love, and we are here to support everybody that is going through and suffering, from the child to the adult and back again and all the way back around the universe, right? So it's very important that people really understand that it's about reaching out, right? We can't heal one heart at a time or one breath at a time when we stay silent, right? So it's okay to come forward and tell your story, and let us help you get through the guilt and the grief and the lost time. And I mean, the lost time doesn't necessarily have to be under hypnosis. The lost time could be when we get into a routine of abuse, that the days and weeks and months and years become very muddy. Everything becomes very survival mode, right? So we're losing our life. We're losing part of this life experience. That can be lost time as well, right? Where you're just in survival mode. You're just trying to get through the day. You have no idea what's coming through the door, what's going to happen to you. Or as in your case, Cathy, where you had no perception of that because you just, your instinctual, this burn, I'm telling you guys, I'm sorry. The instinctual you, the reptilian brain you, knew that you were in danger, but you consciously, it wasn't there. Like, people can't even understand what that must have been like for you to be in that state.
My spirit was always in a safe, loving space, no matter what my body was going through.
Yeah.
My spirit was in this safe, loving space. And having that ability, that realization, that knowing it, like, built this freeway to the divine. It was like what people pray or meditate to achieve is something that I actually was experiencing throughout my victimization. So when I healed, I choose to stay in harmony with that and align with that because that is our spiritual birthright. And having been around these perpetrators, and what their evil, dark energy, they're a negative, dark, low vibration energy, and they feed off of dark energy. They feed off of hatred. They feed off of fear. They feed off of negativity and division. And that's their vibration. They need to keep us on a low vibration. When we live the love we are, that we are such a high vibration, they can't even get near us. They can't touch us. They can't reach us. That's way too far out of their realm. They cannot touch nor possess the human spirit. The only thing they can do is manipulate our minds so that we can't think to have our soul expression and that access to the strength of the human spirit. If we can't think to express it, that is what they want, because that's where they're using trauma and negativity and keeping us at a low vibration where we're not thinking that, well, once we access that, once we live that, it's game over. Their greatest fear is that we're going to remember who we are and why we're here, that we're going to live the love we are, that we're going to live that infinite strength of the human spirit. We're going to stay aligned with the divine, because then it's game over. They lose. We win. It's our birthright. We just need to claim our victory. And it's time that we do that and stop this handful who are not like us, and they do not like us. And they cannot manipulate us any longer when we remember who we are, why we're here, and what our life's purpose is. So it's spiritual in that regard. This whole thing we're experiencing is this mind control agenda is a spiritual. It's an effort to stop the human spirit in that regard. This is a spiritual battle, and it's one that we all naturally win because we already won. We just need to accept our victory and heal to reach that point to be able to do that. Agape rescues children. That unconditional love, that energy force, that is where our victory, where humanity's victory is.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
When you said something so inspiring, and that's why I raised my arms. It's like when we live the love that we are, we live the love that we are, the dark side can't win because love trumps everything.
And this woman lives her love.
Yeah.
Like Mark came in, rescued their mind, and she is the epitome of what she says.
I'm living vicariously through you, Staci, because I would just love so much to experience that energy of Cathy's and to be with you ladies, just to sit in the backyard, your beautiful backyard.
Sit here and drink coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. But ladies, I have to, this is a little embarrassing, but my battery power is very low. So I want to do a break, and we're just going to pause this for a second. And then when we come back, I want to talk about Cathy's books, and I want to talk about anything that's upcoming for Agape, where you're going to get out there and do some things and be out in the public, and we can get the word out and get people going on living the love that they are. I love that. We need that on a t-shirt. Okay. So I'm just going to pause for a second, and we will be continuing on just a moment when I plug in my computer. All right, so I would like to now give Cathy the floor to introduce her books her book. Is it more than one book, Cathy, or just one? Is it one or two? Two. Okay, excellent.
I've got three.
Yeah, she's got three.
Okay.
This one,
I love this PTSD book. This one, because go ahead, Cathy.
Well, this is the healing methods that Mark taught me. Look at how this is easy to self-apply. And it is a reminder to everyone that it's within us all to heal.
Yeah.
It's within us all to heal ourselves. We've been blessed with that capability all along, and it helps people remember how to do it, and has some easy tips in there, like the importance of writing out by hand, which writing memory out before speaking. Write it all out before speaking it to someone. Speaking it out kind of it keeps it compartmentalized, whereas writing it out opens it up, frees it so you can't be triggered anymore. When we heal from within, we cannot be led anymore. We evolve with the knowledge that is our defense against mind control from that point on.
So Agape Rescues Children loves this book because it's all about healing, and it's Mark's, teaching through this woman. So
wonderful.
I love this book.
And you're so right, Cathy. When we are healed, when we deal with it, when we face it, when we accept it and integrate it as the experience, not with guilt, not with shame, none of that, but just as the experience, it is so true that because then you can't be triggered anymore. It doesn't matter what anybody ever says to you. It doesn't matter if they bring up the past, because you are like, why, I'm okay with this now. So let's move on and create new memories and new life patterns instead of regurgitating and going backwards when that is already done, and it just needs to be integrated and accepted, dealt with, and then you move on, right? So it's so important. So anybody that is on a healing journey, that they if you don't want to reach out quite yet, please go. I'm sure it's available on all the things, Amazon, Kindle, all the things, for Cathy's PTSD book. Or is it just available through your website?
I love this one.
And everything's available on my website.
Okay.
So, we'll post that up there, the trance-formation.com, TRANCE-formation.com. PTSD is posted there in ebook form, so everybody can have it now, regardless of income, regardless of, they can secretly get it without anybody knowing that they have started their healing journey. Because our healing journeys are very personal, and it's safest for many, especially those in the public eye, entertainers and all, to just heal from within themselves, gather that strength so they can't be triggered anymore, and to claim the life as it's meant to be lived. Because until we claim that freedom and start living our purpose, we're apt to make the same mistakes, get into bad relationships and, further subconsciously further abuse. So we all need to heal from within ourselves. When Mark rescued me, and I loved him so much, and he wouldn't have anything to do with me. He said, you've got to heal first in order to know who you are and have something to give in a relationship. So that was a huge motive for me to heal even faster, you know. So it's love is the greatest healer. It's the greatest motivator. And it's important that people realize that we need to heal first. And then
and we have to be gentle on ourselves. We have to be gentle with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about forgiving yourself. You didn't, I mean, there's nothing to forgive. If you were put in that situation, there's nothing to forgive for yourself. You didn't, right? But we have to be so gentle and understand that our own judgment and our own guilt is what prevents us from, or shame is what prevents us from moving forward and truly healing, because we're too ashamed or embarrassed to say, oh, how could this have happened to me? How come I didn't know? How come I let it go on so long? How come I, like, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, I find, are the three very big roadblocks to healing. The woulda, coulda, shouldas. Don't worry about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, because in the moment you were doing exactly what you were able to do, right? Because if we knew better, we would have done better. So sitting there and looking at the past and judging ourselves from a current perspective is a waste of time, and we just re-traumatize ourselves, right? So in the moment, everything happened the way it did. Now that you know better, and now that you're aware of it, like anybody that's out there wanting to heal their past and get past their past is what I call it, and step into the love that you are. I love that. We need that on a coffee mug and a t-shirt. That it really is just about being so gentle on yourself, and don't be mad at yourself. Don't be upset at yourself. You're already going through your trauma. Just love thyself. And
that's patient. It takes time. It takes time to heal, and you have to be patient.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, and be kind to yourself and be gentle with yourself, and understand that it is a process. It's not an event. It's not one day that you're suddenly healed. There's other things to process too. People need to process bitterness. It was easy for me to process that when I realized how these perpetrators, these abusers, feed off of dark, negative energy, and they're not going to get any bitterness, hatred, or fear from me. They got enough of that. They're not going to get that low. I'm not going to feed their vibration. I'm going to just live love, everything I do out of love. And I think when we realize that, we don't have to forgive our abusers. We understand that they are not like us and do not like us, or we understand that our parents were manipulated too. And that understanding is different than forgiveness, because to me, forgiveness is like condoning the abuse. You don't want to condone it. You don't want to stay bitter with it. You simply need to understand. Again, truth makes us free.
Understand. We have to understand where they're coming from. And once you get a whole new perspective on the things that we've gone through, and we do understand compassion and understanding and all that, I mean, that starts with us. It starts with us and how we perceive that, and how it just makes that situation a little bit softer around the edges.
Absolutely.
This is what happened to me. This is not who I am. This is what happened to me. This is what abusers did. This is documented testimony for Congress. National security was invoked on it. This tells my life story of what happened, but not who I am. So this information was put in book form for Congress because we need some positive, necessary changes. People need to be aware. This was written in 1995. It even outlined who was going to be put in the office of president, and how this, and the vaccines, it forewarns everything. It was not a prophecy. It's the plan right here, because they want to do it for generations. This is it. So I recommend people arm themselves with that truth. But ultimately, this is a much easier read. Access denied for reasons of national security. Tells marks in my journey through the corrupted justice and mental health system to help my daughter. How we navigated the way the system is corrupted, how we got through, how we survived the FBI, and ultimately how we fell in love in the process. So this is about healing, and it's about love, and it's a testament to the strength of the human spirit and power of love. A much, much, much easier read, and one that any parent who has their child caught up in the system needs to read.
The power of love.
Yep.
Is everything. Love is everything.
It is.
And it was the basis of this story, that came out of this amazing miracle story of theirs, and this love blossomed.
Well,
And
if
now
you want to talk
Mark
about
is
it,
past, and like his
love is here.
love
Just
is
the
so
wisdom.
here in this house, and just his library and his artifacts, and like, wow.
well, the relationship story between you and Mark is its own romantic journey for sure. I mean, you've got the knight in shining armor that came out of nowhere and rescued you and your daughter, and all of the peril and the battles that you had to fight. And you find like he being able to be so gentle with you, like really met you where you were at, did not overwhelm you, was very conscious of all of the things that you needed in order to regain your memories and to do it. Like, and I really need people to understand that this does not happen overnight. Okay. So many people, if you're abused or traumatized at some point, whether it's ongoing or it was in the past, we have to understand it's like gaining weight. It didn't happen overnight. You didn't gain that 40 pounds overnight. It's going to take time for that weight to come off. And as the healing journey is happening, the key is to get started, right? Don't wait one more day to stop suffering. Don't wait one more day to get in touch with your own heart. Don't wait another day to love yourself and just be like, this is something that happened to me, and now I'm going to just deal with it and live the love that I'm meant to be, right? Because we can do that. And I do believe that forgiveness is one of these mental traps. I do believe it's a psyop that has been put into humanity and into society, because that forgiveness is God's job. It's up to God to forgive that person. I don't have to forgive that horrible person that traumatized me and ruined my life and blah, 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 blah. That is not up to me. I don't need to forgive that. That is not my job. My job is to love myself and to have compassion for those that are harming, because hurt people. Do I have to love them and have them over for coffee? Absolutely not. But it's not my job to forgive them either. And for myself, there's nothing to forgive. I didn't do anything wrong, right? I was a victim. I was a victim of somebody else's disconnection, somebody else's lack of love, somebody else's lack of connection to a higher power and to a higher oneness, right? So I think the forgiveness thing is that I'm just giving people permission to say it's okay not to forgive. Define it for yourself. Define it for yourself. Because so many people get hung up there, right? Just with the same thing with guilt. So it's important. We're just giving you free reign, folks. You don't have to forgive. That's a psyop. It's not your job. Not your job.
It just is. I guess maybe forgiveness is just a different perspective on forgiveness, or forgiveness, and
you can look at the
just
abuse.
lightening our load on us. Just
Exactly.
load on us.
It's not up to us to judge everyone either. It's up to us to take responsibility for our own lives.
Yeah.
And
the people. It comes
like
down to we the people in so many forms, in every aspect of life. It comes down to understanding.
This is wonderful. Well, ladies, this has been such a treat for me, Cathy. You have been part of my life for 15 years or more now. You are the reason, you and Kelly's story are the reason that I went down this road in the first place. Actually, how I found you was I was trying to, diagnose my grandmother's schizophrenia, because I honestly believe that most schizophrenic cases are trauma that was not dealt with, and therefore they have that, again, the neuropathway disconnect. My grandmother was horribly abused after, like, in the 1920s as a child by her older brothers. There was 9 of them, and my great grandparents at one day went to work and never came home. Like, to this day, none of us know what happened to them. We don't know. They left one day in their little cart to go sell their things, and they never came back. So we don't ever know what happened to them, but we know the trauma that happened within the family unit that, and then my aunt and my mom went through it. And thankfully I was not part of that. I did not have to go through that myself. I had other issues. But in trying to figure out what my grandmother's schizophrenia was, that's what got me down the hypnosis, the mind control. And then I found your story, and I've just been in love with you ever since. And I have just been, my heart space has just been rooting for you and Kelly. And of course, Mark, until I found out, I cried the day that I found out he passed away. I was like, I cried. Because I can't even imagine how that would have affected you sorry, I get teared up. I can't imagine how that would have affected you with how much of a champion he was for you and how much of a strength and support he was for you. I was like, no, God, don't do this to her. Like, she doesn't deserve, like, bring Mark back, right? Let him be with her. Let them have a long, happy life. But we all know that this journey is We all have an end date, and unfortunately, sometimes it's just not long enough.
They have such a beautiful connection right now. They have such a
I
beautiful
chose
connection.
to carry him with me, to let my heart go double size instead of break in two, and to honor him every step of the way. He let me be in a safe place and around his amazing love, and heal and be strong. And I'm going to stand by that. And I'm going to continue our shared life's purpose. I'm still here. There's a reason. And so I'm going to just keep living the love I am, and I'm going to shine it even brighter because I'm carrying his in me too.
Yep. And I'm going to keep telling your story, and I'm going to keep exposing the MK Ultra because it is important, and it's part of my life mission to do this. That's why I came across your story. It's been motivating me all these years to be able to speak to you. Like, yesterday was the best day of my life when I got to see you and say hi and just be like, I'm not kidding you guys. Like, I cannot tell you how important that was to me to be able to finally say, hi, Cathy. And I'm so glad that you made it. And I'm so glad that Kelly's okay and that you two are thriving and you are living your life.
Thriving.
You've been through so much.
It's so beautiful here.
Yep.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
We're celebrating people waking up and other survivors emerging, and knowing that people are understanding how to help others.
And I really believe this book helps a lot of survivors.
Okay. And can you say your website again, Cathy, please?
trance-formation.com, trance-formation.com.
Okay, and all that information, the links will be available below when we put this out to the public. And I highly recommend that everybody share this so that we can get the word out. And it's not about, we're not fear mongering when it comes to knowing how the system is controlled, okay, and how we are controlled. There's no fear mongering here. This is about love and understanding and opening the pathways to communication so that we can help the children now and going forward. We can help all survivors of all age ranges. And if you are somebody that is now aware that somebody that you love has gone through abuse or any of that kind of thing, and you need help to figure out how you feel about it, please come to us. That's what
we are only a phone call away.
That's right.
One phone call away, and we can start advertising our number and start putting it out there.
1-888-587-8588. I have that number buried in my head now. Yep. And the email is until we get a new one, it's Happy Healer Helpline at gmail.com, which I will put in the description as well. And just slower, 1-888-587-8588 is the helpline. And we're ready. We're ready and willing to rock. And we just can't wait to start helping people heal one breath at a time. Just take a breath
at a time.
All about breathing, right? There's nothing we can't get through without support and love, and just breathe. There's nothing we can't get through. There's nothing we can't get through, but we've got to do it together, right? No man can stand alone. No woman can stand alone. Definitely no child can stand alone. We need each other. And that's what we're breaking now. We've got complete separation during COVID. They managed to do that. The people running the Gong Show. And we have to understand that we are the power. We have always been the power. It's like Cathy said, we've just got to remember. We've got to remember that we are the power, and that love is the highest vibrational frequency. It conquers everything. It conquers
everything. That's when we start on a local level, we figure it out and we start making changes.
Absolutely.
Local politicians and through local charities and local things that are supporting we the people.
Yep.
Normal people getting out there. We don't have a background. We don't have an agenda. We don't, we just want to get out there and make changes.
No more suffering. This life is to be lived, and it is to be experienced, and it is about joy and love and connection, community. That's what I think I can speak for all of us when I say we just want to relieve suffering. There's no more suffering, because when you are not suffering, you are in a place of love. And if some people can't wrap their heads around, well, I don't even know how to love myself, that's okay. Be the love that you want. Express that love outwards, the love that you wish that you had in your life, the unconditional love and support that you wish you had. Be that. And in that, you will find love for yourself as well, right? Right, Cathy? It's basically what you were saying earlier about you couldn't find it for yourself, but you just express the love, and then look at what happens. It comes back to you in ways that you can't possibly fathom, right?
That's how live the love you are and align with the divine.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time today. We will definitely be looking forward to any further stuff coming up with fundraising and things for Agape Rescues Children. So if you can donate, it's all a tax write-off. You get a receipt and everything. Please go to agaperescueschildren.org, download and print the prevention and education manual, put it everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And please support Agape's efforts to do healing. We just want to heal. We just want to relieve suffering and provide a safe space for everybody that is suffering and needs to get past their past. And for Cathy, please visit her website, get her books, read them, do the PTSD work. And I'm going to go look at that myself. I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 days. I'm going to read it. I'm going to do it and get it, and recommend it to other people as well. Please share this on your socials, you guys, anybody watching this in the future. And for anybody that took the time to spend with us today, thank you all for your love, your trust, and your support. Ladies, thank you for making a dream come true for me today to be able to talk to Cathy after all of these years. Oh my gosh, this is just amazing for me. Again, little series of joy here. So thank you, ladies. Thank you for your love, your support,
Thank
your
you.
charity, all of it. Just love you both so much and cannot wait to one day actually be able to meet you both in person and do that big hug. All right. Thank you, ladies. Take care. And for everybody, thanks again. AgapeRescuesChildren.org and trans-formation.com. We love you guys. Love you, ladies. Love you, love you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we look forward to our next podcast, but we don't know when that's going to be, but we'll announce it. Okay.
We'll
All
let
right.
you know.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Talks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay.